After climbing the slope, the tornado swung slowly around to the northeast again. The structures destroyed are the arbitrary choice of the tornado. From other aerial photographs, these apartments west of 72nd Street appear to have been damaged by the west side lobe, while the main tornado stayed to the east side of 72nd Street. A clear path of the main funnel shows here 1/2 block east of 72nd Street. As the tornado continued on, the general direction of travel was north-northeast. Damage through this area was heavy, but was possibly moderated by the trees in the area. As the storm passed each area, rescue work began. Citizens, law enforcement personnel, and firemen began checking house to house for survivors and injured. It should be pointed out that although rescue work must proceed as soon as possible after the tornado has passed, the possibility exists of repeat tornadoes within minutes of the first tornado. Tracking of the storm continued to be reported until it lifted from the ground. Key officials were already establishing control centers and recalling off-duty personnel to work. The tornado was beginning to drop debris picked up earlier and carried along. The tornado's fury had been spent. The initial reaction, as was learned later, was excellent. Now firemen and equipment proceeded en masse to the destruction area. Although gas leaks were prevalent, no fires resulted. Every piece of available rescue equipment responded to the area. Firemen of the Omaha Fire Division aided in a house-to-house search for victims. The Omaha Police Division, with the Douglas and Sarpy County Sheriff's Departments, and the Nebraska State Patrol aided in the house-to-house search for victims. They also directed traffic, closing off the area as quickly as possible from sightseers and looters. Aerial surveillance of the tornado path by the mayor and other officials was accomplished as soon as possible after the tornado to ascertain estimates of total damage and the physical limits of destruction. Disaster declarations must be made as quickly as possible. The Douglas County Sheriff's helicopter was utilized for this. The curfew area was plotted on maps and then distributed to law enforcement personnel. The area was sealed off from sightseers and looters with law enforcement personnel posted at all entrances to the area. Surveillance at night by the Douglas County Sheriff's helicopter aided in maintaining security of the damaged area. The Omaha Police Division established police patrol areas within the damaged area and assigned all available cruisers, personnel, and supervisors to these areas. The Omaha Public Power District faced a massive job. They responded quickly to cut power from down lines so that rescue work could proceed safely. The massive destruction of poles and power lines meant an all-out effort would be required to restore power section by section to the damaged area. Many gas leaks were reported from broken house lines. Metropolitan Utilities District personnel responded quickly and began to isolate areas and cut off gas supply. The quick response of MUD aided in preventing fires which could have made the disaster much worse. The task of turning off individual house services so that gas service could be restored to the area was accomplished quickly. Telephone service to homes in the area was provided by outside free phone service by Northwestern Bell. Telephone company personnel set about the tedious task of restoring normal phone service to the area. The Red Cross and the Salvation Army responded with immediate medical and food services to the area residents and set about the task of finding temporary shelter and clothing for those left homeless by the tornado. The Omaha Public Works Department drew up and printed work area maps. Maps were distributed, and all available crews and equipment were assigned to the areas. Each area was assigned a foreman. The damaged area was divided in half, and 2 area supervisors, north and south, were assigned. The initial assignment was to open streets so that rescue work and necessary services could get into and through the damaged area. The mayor and state governor issued disaster declarations, and the state National Guard was mobilized. The initial National Guard assignment was to furnish guards to help seal off the disaster area from looters and sightseers. Roving patrols were also set up for this purpose. Area entry passes were printed by the Omaha Police Division. Field issue points were established, and passes were issued to the residents of the area and authorized service personnel. Guard shifts were established and assembly points picked to facilitate guard changes. Communications are the key to successful disaster reaction by a community. The police and fire communication system functioned with precision and skill during all phases of the disaster. The 911 system, although swamped with calls, was able to handle emergency calls with dispatch. The Public Works radio net was used to help track the storm and to start recall of personnel while the tornado was still on the ground. The Public Works Control Center was activated. Hospital emergency communications were essential. The amateur radio operators in the area turned out en masse, as did the REACT Seabeers. The ham operators, using their own equipment, set up many radio links between field forces and various control centers to supplement congested telephone circuits. One most important link was the amateur link between Offutt Air Force Base weather and the North Omaha Weather Station. The amateur operators and the REACT Seabeers were involved from the initial tornado watch through much of the first week of cleanup. A great deal of emergency long-distance communications traffic was handled by the amateur operators during the days immediately following the tornado. The National Guard command post was set up immediately upon Guard mobilization orders. Due to the lack of a central emergency operations center, local and civil defense officials utilized the National Guard command post as an operations communications center. These views of the damage from ground level were taken the day after the tornado. The tornado's fury wrapped what appears to be the side of a trailer truck around this pole. Vehicles were tossed like toys. The entire community was beginning a slow recovery from the state of shock produced by the disaster. Before the real cleanup could begin, residents of the stricken area had to be given time to salvage personal effects. Insurance companies had to survey damage of individual properties. Arrangements had to be made for housing of a more permanent nature for those left homeless. Arrangements for transfer of school children had to be made. Plans of attack were being formulated to dispose of massive amounts of debris. Photographs were taken to record the destruction and the cleanup as it progressed. The east wall of this building blew outward. Notice that it was constructed of 8 by 12 by 16-inch concrete blocks. Many apartment buildings were damaged. Twisted masses of steel and rubble were all that remained of some businesses. Businesses had to acquire temporary facilities to continue operations. Records and inventories had to be recovered if possible. Structures which remained had to be inspected for structural damage. Trees had to be inspected by forestry personnel to see if they could be salvaged. Those trees which were a total loss had to be inspected by insurance claims agents. Damaged vehicles had to be inspected by insurance claims agents after location by their owners. Special disaster one-stop centers were established for tornado victims. Local and federal agencies were represented at each of these centers. Local schools donated space for this effort. The Small Business Administration helped arrange low-interest loans for homeowners. The Federal Disaster Assistance Administration helped obtain federal monies for public property damaged or destroyed. The Nebraska Psychiatric Institute offered counseling for distraught residents. Masses of tree limbs and wires had to be separated by literally sawing through them.